Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our podcast.
Today we're covering the incredibly underrated film, The Adventures of TinTin.
Absolutely underrated. Now this is based on the popular 40s comic, and this movie chronicles a grand adventure for Tintin, Snowy the dog, and Captain Haddock. Now the three must find the treasure, or the One Piece, secret of the unicorn, a ship that belonged to an ancestor of Haddock before the rivals can reach it first.
Yes, and before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get updates on future podcasts and more Paws videos.
Absolutely. I think this movie was absolutely beautifully animated. It's just gorgeous looking at it. Mm-hmm. It's just beautiful from beginning to end. That's what stuck out to me more than anything else, is that it's a pleasure for the eyes.
Right.
You just enjoy looking at it.
And apparently this was one of the last few motion capture movies that was made on this scale, because they had lots of big name actors playing the characters both in motion capture and doing the voice, which is why all the characters looked pretty real.
Yes.
And unfortunately, part of that, it was like a two-sided thing. For the reviews, they enjoy the motion capture and the animation, but when you get to critics online and people watch the movie, they were still creeped out by their faces because they looked too human and they didn't look right. And people have been saying they didn't like motion capture for a while, but I really didn't see a problem with it. I think you probably have to adjust to it after a few minutes. It's like they wanted to make them look like the characters, but still make them lifelike, where they just change them all together, look like different people.
I thought it was fine. The one that creeped me out most is Mars Needs Moms. It didn't look anything like that, so I was fine.
Right.
Again, I thought it was beautifully animated.
Yes,
and I didn't think it looked too human. I thought that it really allowed them to have a whole lot of expression be carried across in the comments and the actions and the things that went on in the movie.
And one of the things that's been praised for is that it was really faithful to the original comics.
Good job, Steven Spielberg.
Yes. There were a few differences that they changed, because they put together 3 stories as one adventure, but for the most part they stayed true to what the stories and the adventures had. And the only thing that really was a little common, besides the visual appearance of the characters that people have said that was a little bit off, was that the movie goes really fast, but not in terms of like too fast you can't like keep up. Is like that I kind of agree with, is that there was no time to for them to stop and rest before the next thing happened, because everything happened at every single moment.
But that's twofold. That's a twofold thing. One, if you've ever seen, that you haven't, I've seen a couple movies from that time period, the 40s, and you've had people like Living Color have a character that's from the 40s, and during that time period they spoke very quickly. They were, they would do a lot of monologuing and speak very quickly, and they were very action-packed and always moving. And since this was based on the 40s comic, I think Spielberg did a great job of keeping that vibe from that original time period.
Yes.
And what I mean is twofold, is for some, they're not used to that in its form, which I'm not used to it, but I've seen it before. I personally liked it because it was just action-packed from beginning to end.
That's true.
I didn't need a break. I liked the high-pacedness of it. I liked that there was always something going on, and it was just constant motion. I absolutely loved it, and this is what makes it stand out from any other animated movie I've ever seen. Again, the animation, the action that constantly went on.
Yes.
And the fast paces of it.
Yes.
Fast paced, it reflects what went on during that decade, and stayed true to it.
Yes.
And that might be what was a turn off.
Slightly.
I personally don't care for movies from the 40s. I like some of the fashion, as you know me, with the shoes and things. But for this animated movie itself, I think sticking to the 40s dynamic for how things were filmed, with the fast pacedness and the fast talk and everything, worked brilliantly for this movie.
Yes.
But that's just me.
Yeah. And I think it was a really great idea to do this because I hadn't heard of Tintin but never seen anything of it. Didn't know it was a remake.
I never
and
heard of it
watched it for the first time. I was like, wow, this is really good. It was like a really great action family film despite them like shooting at each other. It was still a family film. And there was always danger at every turn. It felt like almost like watching DuckTales at points.
And I think that might also have been off-putting. Forgive me, guys. Is that it was in the 40s. It was a little, I won't say shocking. It was unusual when you see what was going on because Tintin was a reporter and you got to see, you know, he was a journalist and a reporter and you got to see how news was done then and you saw the little apartment he lived in that looked like a little sardine can.
Yeah.
And you saw the dog running around without a leash. It was just so different from what we do now. And that also might have been something that was a little unusual for people watching it. And again, I like when animators take chances and do things that are different. And I don't think that you have to have been born during this time period or even a fan of the movie genre to like this animated movie.
Exactly.
Which for me, I think this movie stands out and I love this movie. Now, would I like to see another animated movie made the same way? I can tell you no. For this one though,
it works.
It works.
Right.
Yeah. And I've never read the comic. I never heard about the comic. I think they also did a great job, as you said, of combining them and making one adventure because I don't feel I had to have known the characters prior or to have had to have read the comic strips or anything in order to appreciate and understand the movie.
Right. and I agree because I know Richard the Manager is a huge fan of this movie and the series and things, and you know, you can see why. Even with them, you know, having some little bit of updates, they really were focused on keeping the essence of the original comic. And unfortunately, the only unfortunate part is that the creator of it did not get to see it finish because he passed on before they finished because it had been pushed back so much and delayed. And we don't know if there's going to be a sequel because they kept saying, yeah, they want to do a sequel, they really wanted to, and they were saying they wanted to do it, but so far it's just been stuck in, as they call it, development hell, where they want to do a sequel, but for some reason it just hasn't been made. There hasn't been any focus on it or anything, and perhaps because even with the current events that's been going on, that could be why.
Let me ask you a question. And let me ask you guys too. Let us know your answers in the comments below. Do you think this movie would have been more successful if it had been modernized and placed in modern day at the time it was made?
Probably not. Because you know how people are sticking to the source material. I think for this instance, they could have had some updates in it, but part of the mystery and everything, a lot of things couldn't happen because if you had smartphones and computers and the internet and cameras, a lot of things Tintin and the villains could do couldn't be done because you had technology that probably helped them catch them in like 5 minutes. And here he had to use his intelligence, he had to use wit, he had to use problem solving skills, and Haddock when he was sober, he was helpful. Snowy was very helpful. He was a really smart dog. Yes. And that's probably what ended up having to be done with it. And how it was so interesting in how these mysteries were being made and solved. If they had added the technology and made it modern day, a lot of things either wouldn't have been able to be done, wouldn't have been believable, or if they had used technology, all the events would have been done much sooner and tracking and everything, and none of it would have been possible. So I think for Tintin itself, it had to stay in that time period, or else anything that could be happening there would no longer be believable.
Right. Now I have to say that there's no backstory given for Tintin.
Yeah, neither in the comic.
Right. You just basically have this young reporter who buys a sailboat, and then an adventure ensues, without spoiling for you if you haven't seen it.
Right.
And there are some twists and turns that are surprising. There are some developments that are unexpected. And I do think that the time period versus the period it was made in, does work against it in that fashion, because when you find out some truths, you're not as surprised as you would have been, because they've been done many times before.
Right.
But I do believe that all in all, this is a beautifully made movie. The animation is beautiful. The story was fun. It was adventurous. The voice actors were spot on and perfect. Snowy's adorable. And would I watch a sequel? Absolutely yes.
Yes.
I don't know anything about, again, the comic strip of the characters,
right.
but I would like to see a sequel.
Right. Now we should also give some attention to the voice actors / actors who played them in the motion capture and as the voices. We have Jamie Bell as Tintin, Andy Serkis as Captain Haddock.
The incomparable Andy Serkis.
Right. Daniel Craig as Ivan Sakharin. Is that his name? It was a pirate, so I had to think about it.
Yes, let's go with it.
Yeah, let's make sure. Nick Frost and Simon Pegg were Thompson and Thompson.
Yes, we love Nick Frost and Simon Pegg.
Yeah, and Toby Jones, Daniel Mays, Mackenzie Crook, and quite a few others made starring list in here, and all of them I think were
don't forget Carrie Elways.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I think a lot of them were all British stars. So another part of it was that aside from a handful of the ones we had mentioned, there weren't as many actors people in America would know unless they watch movies that featured them in it.
But I don't think that was necessary to enjoy it.
Right.
It may have been necessary for it to get more attention and more press, but I don't think it was necessary to enjoy the movie.
Right.
So, if you guys have seen Tintin, let us know what you think in the comments below. If you are familiar with the comic strip because you've been told about it, or you've been able to read the comics, did you see them in a book or some other archival fashion, let us know more of what you think in the comments below. If you haven't seen it, the only way to see it is to pay to rent it on Prime or to buy the DVD like we did on Amazon.
Right. So, don't be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get updates on future podcasts and World of Paws videos.
Yes, absolutely.
And thank you so much for watching. I'm Rascal Entertainment.
And I'm Mom Entertainments. And thank you for joining for another movie in our British Favorites list week.
Yes. I'm Rascal Entertainment.
And I'm
Once
Mom
again,
Entertainment.
have a fantastic day.
Peace.
And reporters sitting, flashing lights, trying to walk around, man, who the hell are you? What you wanna do? Well, man, it's on you. Man, it's on you. Met her in my dreams, she was my queen. A castle in the mountaintops, rivers and streams. Plucking sunlight from the sky in my pocket, give it to you later on in the